everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into another film with us?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're taking a deep dive into all the hype surrounding The Gorge. It's that new sci-fi thriller flip over on Apple TV Plus. So we've
Yeah.
got like a whole stack of podcast reviews for this one.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to, break it all down for you. See if it's actually worth adding to your watch list. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. It seems like people are either loving it or hating it. There's not a lot of middle ground.
Right. That's what caught our attention, too. And with Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy in the lead roles, I mean, come on, how could we resist?
Two powerhouses for sure.
Seriously. And the reviewers are all over their performances, like praising their chemistry, how they play off each other as these two totally different characters. You've got Levi, this like stoic, quiet sniper dude.
Right.
And then there's Drasa, who's way more free-spirited. That classic opposites attract thing.
Oh, yeah, totally. Always a good recipe for some sparks on screen. But, the reviews also mention that the romance feels a little rushed.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They maybe didn't quite nail the pacing of it.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if they sacrificed some of that, that genuine connection building just to keep the plot moving.
It happens.
It totally does. Like, think about those iconic on-screen romances that really worked, like Casablanca or When Harry Met Sally.
Classics.
Right, and those relationships felt real because we, as viewers, got to see them, like, grow and evolve over time. What do you think is the key to making a romance really work on screen? Especially, when it's in a genre film like this with all the other stuff going on.
That's a good question. I think it's got to be about those small new moments,
Okay, yeah.
Like little glimpses of vulnerability that the characters share. Those experiences that create a feeling of real intimacy.
Yeah, I get that.
The audience has to buy into the idea that these two people are drawn to each other for reasons that go deeper than just, surface level attraction.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it feels like they're just thrown together for the sake of the plot, right?
Exactly. And it sounds like maybe the Gorge stumbles a bit there.
Yeah, maybe so. But hey, let's move on to the visuals because that seems to be where this film really shines based on the reviews.
Oh, yeah.
They're describing the Gorge itself as this crazy blend of like Silent Hill meets Lord of the Rings aesthetics, which, I mean, come on, that sounds insane.
That's quite a combo. I'm picturing it like some epic landscapes, but with a seriously creepy vibe.
Right. And then they've got these creatures called Hollow Men that are apparently a mix of practical effects and CGI.
Interesting. Practical effects can be so cool.
Oh, I know. I'm a total sucker for practical effects. I think they just bring a level of realism and creepiness that CGI sometimes just like misses.
It's that tangibility, right?
Yeah.
Like knowing that thing is actually there on set. It just adds this visceral quality that can really pull you into the world of the film.
Totally. And the fact that the director went that route, using practical effects, it makes me think they were really going for a specific aesthetic, maybe like a bit of a B-movie vibe.
Could be. And hey, B-movies can be a lot of fun when they're done well.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if they embrace those genre tropes and like have a little fun with them.
A little wink to the audience.
Exactly. So you've got these crazy visuals, and the reviewers also mentioned some pretty intense action sequences, like a Jeep chase through this gorge and this like spider skull ambush that they're comparing to Sam Raimi's style.
Oh, wow. So like over-the-top, in-your-face action.
Sounds like it. So we're getting this picture of a film that's leaning into that B-movie aesthetic.
Yeah, it seems like they're going for a more visceral, adrenaline-fueled experience.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. But we can't talk about things that elevate a film without mentioning the music.
Of course.
And get this, the score for The Gorge is by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
No way. The duo behind The Social Network and Gone Girl.
The one and only. And the reviewers are like raving about how their music adds to the whole atmosphere of the film.
Well, their work is always so atmospheric and unsettling. I'm really curious to hear how they used music to enhance the already creepy visuals of the Gorge. A good score can really make or break a film's atmosphere.
Oh, totally. It's like a whole other layer of storytelling, right? Like think about how John Williams' score adds to the magic of Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Or how Bernard Herrmann's music makes Psycho so terrifying.
Yeah. Music can tap into our emotions in a way that dialogue and visuals sometimes can't. It can foreshadow events, build suspense, even make you empathize with a character in a deeper way.
Totally. So what are we thinking? Did Reznor and Ross go for a more suspenseful, atmospheric score here? Or something more in-your-face like heavy metal? What did the reviewers pick up on?
Yeah, they definitely leaned into that eerie, suspenseful sound. Like one reviewer even said it reminded them of Reznor and Ross's work on The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh,
Which if you've seen it,
yeah.
that's some seriously creepy stuff.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That fits the vibe we've been talking about.
right.
Okay, so we've got to address the elephant in the room, though, or I guess the hollow man in the gorge, It seems like the film isn't without its flaws,
Right.
according to these reviews.
Yeah, one of the biggest criticisms seems to be the pacing.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of reviewers said the first act drags a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, too much backstory and exposition.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, the opposite problem at the end, the ending feels super rushed.
Oh, wow.
They're trying to cram in all these revelations about the Gorge's origins, like, all at once.
Too much, too fast.
Exactly.
So it's like slow start and then bam, information overload at the end.
Yeah, one critic even compared it to, like, a video game cutscene marathon.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
Not exactly a glowing endorsement.
No, not really. Do you think that uneven pacing is like a common issue in genre films, especially ones that are blending a bunch of different genres like The Gorge seems to be doing?
Yeah, I think it can be. When you're trying to balance the demands of different genres, things can get tricky.
Right.
Like you've got the horror elements here.
Yeah.
And then the whole sci-fi mystery of the Gorge itself.
Right.
Oh, and then they throw the romance on top of all that.
Yeah.
It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes the pacing ends up suffering as a result.
So maybe they were a little too ambitious with this one.
Maybe.
Trying to do too much at once.
It happens.
It totally does. Okay, so speaking of things that might be a little overstuffed, let's talk about the characters.
Okay.
There's some reviewers felt like they weren't very well developed, especially Miles Teller's character, Levi.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's this recurring comment about how he's basically defined by like poetry and alcohol. It doesn't sound like they really explored his motivations or gave him much of an arc.
No, it doesn't.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, because Miles Teller's a great actor.
Totally. He's got range.
Right.
Maybe the script just didn't give him much to work with.
Could be.
And then Anya Taylor-Joy's character, Drasa.
Yeah.
She seems to fare a little better, but even her backstory is kind of shrouded in mystery.
Right. It's incomplete.
Like, we don't get the full picture.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, how much character development is actually necessary in a film like this? So some people might argue that if the action and the visuals are strong enough,
right,
the audience won't care as much about whether the characters are super deep.
Yeah, I guess it depends what you're looking for in a film. Like, if you're just there for pure escapism.
Yeah, just entertainment.
Yeah, then maybe it doesn't matter as much. But if you want something that's going to, like, stay with you, make you think.
A more impactful experience.
Yeah, exactly. Then I think good character development is essential.
Absolutely. Oh, and speaking of missed opportunities for character development,
yeah,
the reviewers also felt that Sigourney Weaver's role was severely underutilized.
What? No, not Sigourney Weaver. She's a legend.
I know, right?
It seems like such a waste of talent.
It does, and her character's basically there to provide exposition about the Gorge and its origins.
Okay.
But even that is delivered in this, like, rushed and confusing monologue.
So we've got pacing issues, underdeveloped characters, and a confusing mythology surrounding this gorge.
Yeah, it's not looking great.
Are you starting to think maybe they focused a little too much on style over substance?
It's possible. And, speaking of style over substance,
yeah.
Let's go back to that rushed romance we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right.
Because it sounds like the reviewers didn't just find it fast-paced, they also found it unconvincing.
Oh, okay.
Like, the characters go from bantering to, like, life-or-death devotion in the blink of an eye.
So it's not just that it's rushed, it also just lacks depth.
Right, exactly.
And believable motivation.
Yeah, because even in the most, like, fantastical settings,
yeah,
a good romance still needs to feel grounded in, like, some kind of emotional reality.
Right. The audience has to connect with it on some level.
Exactly. And one reviewer pointed out that the film, like, tells us these characters are in love, but it doesn't really show us why.
Yeah, I get that.
We don't see those moments of connection.
Yeah.
The shared experiences that would make their feelings feel real.
So it's all very superficial.
It seems that way, yeah.
Okay, so we've got this visually stunning, action-packed film with an amazing soundtrack.
Right.
But it seems to stumble when it comes to, like, character development, pacing, and creating a believable, emotional core.
Right.
What about the mystery of the gorge itself? Do we ever get a satisfying explanation for what it is, where it came from?
It's kind of a mixed bag there, too.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, the reviewers mentioned all these hints about the Gorge's origins, but it sounds like they're all over the place.
Oh, like what?
Well, they throw around ideas about, like, portals to hell,
Okay, sure.
Cold War experiments, even ancient civilizations.
Wow, so they really like threw everything at the wall and hoped something would stick.
It seems that way.
But isn't there something kind of cool about a little mystery, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes leaving things unexplained can spark the viewer's imagination, get people talking.
Right, it can lead to some interesting discussions.
Exactly. But, there's a fine line between, like, intriguing ambiguity
Yeah.
and just being vague for no reason.
Yeah, for sure.
So, did the reviewers think the mystery of the gorge worked? Or did it just add to the overall confusion?
Well, it sounds like it mostly fell on the frustrating side for a lot of them.
Oh, no.
One even said that the big explanatory monologue, the one from Sigourney Weaver,
Right.
it actually raised more questions than it answered.
That's disappointing. Not even Sigourney Weaver could save the day.
Apparently not.
Okay, so bottom line, is The Gorge worth our time? Or should we just skip it and rewatch Annihilation?
Well, the general consensus seems to be, it's a flawed but entertaining B-movie.
Okay.
Like, the visuals are spectacular, the lead actors are great,
Yeah.
and the soundtrack is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a but. It's got pacing issues, underdeveloped characters,
Right.
forced romance, and a confusing mythology.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
It is kind of like a trail mix where some of the nuts are delicious
Yeah.
and some are just plain weird.
I like that analogy. Okay, so it sounds like it comes down to expectations.
Yeah.
What you're looking for in a film.
Exactly. If you go in expecting a masterpiece, you'll probably be disappointed.
Right.
But if you're just looking for, a fun, visually stunning, action-packed thrill ride
Yeah.
with a little romance and some scares thrown in, then The Gorge might be right up your alley.
So maybe it's the perfect movie for like a Friday night when you just want to turn off your brain and enjoy the spectacle. And hey, even if it's not a perfect film, at least it sparks some interesting conversations.
That's true. That's what we love about these deep dives, right?
Totally.
Exploring different perspective, breaking down what works and what doesn't,
Yeah.
helping you decide how you want to spend your precious movie watching time.
Exactly. We're all about giving you the info you need to make an informed decision.
Right.
So if you're a fan of Anya Taylor-Joy, over-the-top action and genre mashups,
Yep,
The Gorge might be worth checking out.
it might be.
But if you're looking for something more nuanced,
Yeah,
more emotionally resonant,
deeper.
yeah, then you might want to look elsewhere.
And, if you loved Annihilation,
Right.
you might find The Gorge a little derivative.
Yeah, I can see that.
But Annihilation set a pretty high bar, so
It's
it's not
not-
really a fair comparison.
True. But it's always interesting to see how different films approach similar themes. And speaking of themes, one thing that stood out to me about The Gorge was that whole idea of like facing your fears, finding the courage to push past your limits.
Oh, interesting.
Both Levi and Drasa have to deal with their own internal struggles while they're navigating this dangerous, unpredictable landscape.
It makes you think about The Gorge itself,
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's a metaphor for the challenges we all face in our own lives.
Whoa, I love that.
Yeah, the unknown creatures, the treacherous terrain,
Right.
the constant sense of danger.
It could all represent the obstacles I encounter on our own journeys.
Exactly.
Wow, that adds a whole other layer of meaning to the film.
It does, doesn't it?
So even if The Gorge isn't a perfect film,
Yeah,
it's still got some food for thought.
it does.
And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want from a good story? Something that makes us think, feel, maybe even see the world a little differently.
Absolutely. On that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into The Gorge.
Okay.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
All right, hit me.
If you could design a creature to live in this gorge, what would it look like? What kind of abilities would it have? How would it interact with the other creatures in this strange world?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm already picturing some pretty wild creatures.
Me too.
And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll see some of your creations come to life on the big screen someday.
That would be awesome.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving